Welcome to Poems to Live By. I'm Chard deNiord, the former Poet Laureate of Vermont. I am coming to you today from Westminster West, Vermont, where I live. It's a cold, still snowy day. It's about 39 degrees. I can hear the birds pecking away at the feeder behind me. I'm going to read a few poems to you by Lucille Clifton. I interviewed Lucille Clifton in 2010, about a week and a half before she died. She died on February 13th, 2010. She was born in 1935. She led a remarkable life. Born in Buffalo, went to Howard University, lived in poverty a lot of her early life, and worked in a welfare office after dropping out of Howard University, but was writing poetry most of the time throughout college and even before that, and then for the rest of her life. She became one of America's greatest poets, a national treasure. I'm going to read the end of this interview that I did with her in 2010 in February, and I think you'll be able to tell who's speaking here. And then following this interview, I'm going to read a few poems. Maybe I should say before I read her poems and part of this interview that I was when I was trying to find her, call her up to see if we could do this interview, I called about 4 or 5 Lucille Cliftons in Washington and the Baltimore area. She lived in Columbia, Maryland, and I wasn't having any luck. And finally, I tried the last Lucille Clifton in the phone book, and this woman answered, and I asked, "Hello, is this Lucille Clifton?" And there was a pause, and then finally, after about 3 or 4 seconds, I heard this voice come back, "Trying to be." So I love that humble attitude that she had. It reminded me a little bit of what Galway Kinnell, the great poet who I also interviewed, said when I asked him if he thought it was okay to be a poet, or to call oneself a poet, not to be a poet, but to call oneself a poet. And he looked at me and said, "It's dangerous to call yourself a poet. You should always let someone else call you that, and not call yourself that." So Lucille had the same attitude. Here's the end of this interview I did with her. I asked, "Are you still writing, Lucille?" That's an odd question, don't you think? Yeah, it always is. I don't know how to answer it myself. I'm writing. If I would be so blessed to write something I haven't written since, I've been feeling badly. I've been ill, but it's coming back. I feel it. I don't know why I would stop. Well, I don't know either, unless you were forced to in some way. You've been very prolific. That's what they tell me. It doesn't seem that way to you? No, not at all. I know how often I don't write. I was in despair or in a depression for some time, but I'm going to be okay. So, your spirits are a little better? Yeah. Good, that's good to hear. The girls were saying, "Mommy, try to be lucid, try very hard." Were they worried that you weren't going to be lucid? I don't know what they thought. You know, your poems are full of references to madness and craziness. Probably. You have a poem called "For the Mad," and you love Crazy Horse. I do. Do you associate craziness with being a poet at all? Well, a little bit, perhaps more than a little bit. Crazy could mean spirited, magical. It could be all sorts of things. Well, I know in a lot of your poems about citizens, you write about the poet as a kind of fool. You make disclaimers for the poet. In your poem, The Poet, you write, "I beg my bones to be good, but they keep clicking music, and I spin in the center of myself, a foolish, frightful woman, moving my skin against the wind and tap dancing for my life." I like that, she responded to my reading of her poem. And then I say, in your poem, Admonitions, you write similarly, "Children, when they ask you, 'Why is your mama so funny?' say she's a poet. She don't have no sense." True, my kids probably said that too. You have this wonderful sense of self-effacing irony in much of your work. The poet is the witness, the truth teller, the mother, the spokeswoman for lawgivers, which is the term Walt Whitman coined for his fellow citizens. the lawgiver. And yet you're calling that person, the poet, a fool at the same time. There's some truth in that. What do you think the truth is in that appellation? I don't know, but there's something that rings true to the ear. Do you feel poets need to be knocked off their pedestal? Yes. They often think they're smarter than everyone else. Do you believe the poet has to be on the same level as the people in order to speak credibly? Poets have to speak out of what is truth for them. Everything we say has so many meanings. I'm shy. I'm really quite shy. Nobody believes it. But you're sane. You've been sane the whole time we've been talking. Thank you. To be sane in this world is crazy. So I'm going to conclude this reading with just a few poems by Lucille that are remarkably powerful, and I'm going to begin with a poem called 1994. And she wrote this. This is from her book, Blessing the Boats. Lucille won the National Book Award in, I believe it was 2003 or 4. I'll have to look up that date. But she won many awards. She was also worked for children's shows on TV, and she traveled the country. She taught at various universities, but mainly she wrote poetry. She was an enormous inspiration to other poets and to school children and to her family. This is called 1994. I was leaving my 58th year when a thumb of ice stamped itself near my heart. You have your own story. You know about the fear, the tears, the scar of disbelief. You know the saddest lies are the ones we tell ourselves. You know how dangerous it is to be born with breasts. You know how dangerous it is to wear dark skin. I was leaving my 58th year when I woke into the winter of a cold and mortal body, thin icicles hanging off the one mad nipple, weeping. Have we not been good children? Did we not inherit the earth? But you must know all about this from your own shivering life. Next poem is called Poem in Praise of Menstruation. If I can find it here, just give me a second. Here we go. If there is a river more beautiful than this, bright as the blood, red edge of the moon, if there is a river more faithful than this, returning each month to the same delta, if there is a river braver than this, coming and coming in a surge of passion, of pain, if there is a river more ancient than this, daughter of Eve, mother of Cain and of Abel, if there is in the universe such a river, if there is in some where what water more powerful than this wild water, pray that it flows also through animals, beautiful and faithful and ancient and female and brave. And I'll conclude with this wonderful poem that is very well known and popular and continues to become even more popular. Lucille's voice has just continued to resonate so strongly. After her death, it's been about 11 years now since she died, which is hard to believe. Won't you celebrate with me? Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up. Here on this bridge between starshine and clay. My one hand holding tight, my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Well, here's Lucille. I'll just end with showing you a picture of her. Please go out and buy her books, and read her poems. Thank you.